So John Maxwell said, number one, obey the 101% principle. What does that mean? Find the 1% that you agree on and give it 100% of your efforts. Look, if anybody tells you, they will even quote Bible to you. The Bible says, can two work together except we agree? Look, we bastardize that scripture. No, in no marriage will you find spouses agreeing on everything. You will not agree on everything. But what is important is when you disagree, what will you do? When your spouse does not agree with you on a matter, what will you do? Okay, that's what is important. That is more important. What you do when there is no agreement is more important than fighting for agreement. Please write that down. What you do, how did I say? Thank you, my wife. What you do when there is no agreement is more important than what you do. Well, but you heard me, right? So it is not about the agreement. What you do during disagreement is more important than you're fighting for agreement. Yes. What you do during disagreement is more important than you're fighting for agreement. So you will not agree on everything, but what is more important is what you do when there is a disagreement. All right. So John Maxwell is suggesting, John Maxwell now, check him out. He's suggesting that focus on the one thing, and in a lot of cases you will find more than one thing. So what are the areas where I and my wife agree? Maybe we don't agree on many things, but there are a few things where at least we agree. Few things. There might not be much. And that's the beautiful thing here. Guys, listen to me. You might not agree on many things, but those few things where at least you agree, put your 100% effort on those things. What the devil is driving you to do is to focus on the areas where you don't agree and to use that to judge the entirety of your marriage. It's wrong. It's wrong. All right? So that's the number one. Obey the 101 principle. Find the 1% where you agree and put 100 efforts on that area. That's number one. Number two, love your spouse more than the opinion. So don't rate your spouse's opinion, especially those opinions that you don't agree with. Don't let the wrong, by your own opinion, the wrong opinion of your spouse, don't let it weigh more than your spouse. Your spouse is more important than our opinion. My wife should be more important to me than our opinion because I don't agree with our opinion. I don't like our opinion. I don't like it. All right? But my wife is more important than that opinion. It's just an opinion. But my wife is more important. So if don't consider that opinion that you don't like more important than the person you married. That's the number two suggestion. Focus on the relationship over the issue. Focus on the relationship over the issue. Don't rate the issue over the relationship. So don't use the outcome of the issue to rate your marriage. All right? Love your spouse more than our opinion, more than the opinion. That's number two. Number three, give the benefit of doubt. Most people don't know how to do this. And this is how God put it to me. So your wife does something to you right now that you are not happy with. And then you suddenly forget every other time that she looked for she sought, she was, you forget all the other times that she made you happy, all the other times that she made sacrifices, all the other times that she did something good, all the other times that she was amazing. You have suddenly forgotten all of that. It doesn't matter anymore, just because of this one time that she did or did not do. And you know what? That's what we always do. We are quick to forget all the good times. We are always quick to forget the times that your spouse did something that was right. But we always latch in on the times when your spouse did not do something you wanted. Again, how cool is that? So John Maxwell is saying, give the benefit of doubt. Assume right motives from your spouse. Believe in his or her good intentions. So when your spouse does something that is not right or that you don't like, be quick to tell yourself that she must have meant well. If she understood the implication of what she did or did not do, perhaps she would have made a better choice. I'm sure she meant well. I remember one time that I was at the gate and I kept calling my wife, and she didn't pick the phone. That was quite a long time ago. I was very angry, But later when the Holy Spirit was explaining the situation to me, like I said earlier, how about the other times where she was trying to sleep and she fought her sleep because she needed to be awake so that she could open the door? For example, how about the other times where she put her comfort on the line so that I will be comfortable. So how can this one night that I called 10 times, 20 times, and because she was asleep, because she was tired, how can it now make a big difference in our relationship? Why? Can you see that that is what some of us do? That we just suddenly forget all the good times because of this bad time. We forget all the good parts. Okay, so John Maxwell is saying, give the benefit of doubt. Assume that he or she has good intentions. All right. Number 4, learn to be flexible. Every rigid person will collect. You will pay dearly for that rigidity. Wisdom means flexibility, adaptability. You must be willing to adapt. Things will not always go your way in your marriage. Things sometimes will go your way, some other times it will go your spouse's way, and some other times it will neither go your way nor his or her way. So be flexible, be adaptable, be like water. All right? Because if you are rigid, you would suffer. People who don't bend in marriage will kill the marriage. If you don't bend in marriage, you will kill your marriage. In order not to kill your marriage, learn to bend, learn to compromise, be adaptable, be flexible. That's number 4. Number 5, provide an escape hatch for your spouse. Yeah? Never let your spouse lose his or her face or dignity, especially in the areas where maybe you are really right and your spouse was wrong. I told you, did I not tell you? Did I not tell you? No, don't do that. So there was a disagreement. You wanted it to go this way. Your spouse insisted on it going that way, and eventually things happened, and it was obvious that your spouse was wrong. Don't rub it in. It's childish people that do that. Don't rub it in. Oh, I told you. Yeah, I told you. It's children that do that. Don't do that. Right? Don't do that. Okay, so don't rub it in. Don't rub it in. Don't rub it in. Don't rub it in. All right? Okay, so leave your spouse with his or her dignity, even when it is obvious that he or she was wrong. Leave your spouse with his or her dignity. Save his or her face. Don't push the boundaries such that your spouse loses his or her face. Yeah, just because he or she was wrong. All right. Never let your spouse lose his or her face or dignity. Gently persuade him or her so he or she can compromise without feeling like he or she has lost. That's number 5. Number 6, check your attitude. Check your attitude. What role might you be playing in that conflict? I've said this earlier, so I'm not going to dwell on that. Check your own attitude. Yes, see, it's very important for you to sometimes take yourself out of the picture psychologically and sit down as an observer. So it is your marriage, right? But imagine that you're an observer in this marriage and you're observing husband and wife argue about what you're arguing about. What would you advise? Right? So check your attitude. Look into the mirror. Look into the mirror and advise yourself. That's number 6. Number 7, don't overreact. Oh God, I hope some people will hear this. Don't overreact. Oh, let me say it one more time. Stop overreacting. Stop overreacting. When we overreact, it is usually more about an underlying issue or something from the past that we have not resolved ourselves or within ourselves. So please, don't overreact. That's number 7. Number 8, don't become defensive. By the way, stonewalling or defensiveness is another thing that can kill a marriage. So, by John Gottman said, contempt and disrespect is the highest predictor of divorce. Another predictor of divorce is defensiveness or stonewalling. All right, they are not willing to engage or converse. Instead, speak to the hand, speak to the hand. That can kill your marriage. Stop doing speak to the hand. Stop being defensive. When your spouse expresses an emotion, you might have a superior argument, but validate that emotion. Sorry you feel that way. I understand that you feel, wow, that would have been worse. I mean, that would have been very hard to deal with. I'm so sorry about that. Validate the emotion. Okay, that's what John Maxwell is saying. Instead of being defensive, validate the emotion. Most conflict is not directly about us. Avoid the blame game. You know what? What God told me is that marriage is like a glass house, very sensitive glass house. Every time you throw stones, you'll be damaging the house. You'll be causing cracks on the wall. So stop throwing stones. What does it mean to throw stones? Blaming the other party. It's your fault. 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 If you did this, that would not have happened. If you didn't do that, that would not have happened. Don't do that. Even when it is true. It might be a fact, but don't do that. Stop throwing blames. Stop throwing stones. All right? Good. Number 9, second to the last point by John Maxwell. Welcome the conflict. Why is he saying that? Because there is no situation that is exactly conflict free. Is Mrs. Emily on this call? I have a friend though, very dear friend. She tells me that her and her spouse never fight or argue. Never. They've been married for how long now? Quite a bit of time. Is it 15 years of marriage? And I really wanted her to be here tonight. I wanted to ask her one or two questions. Right? I know this person one on one, so it's not something I read. She tells me to my face that I and my husband, we don't fight. And at some point, I'm like, are you lying? Are you lying? But honestly, she's not one to lie. I'm not saying she's perfect, but she's not one to lie. So I was really looking forward to having her tonight so that I can ask her before you guys, and you guys can ask her questions. Maybe we'll have a session with her, and then let's ask her what the secret is. All right. She said they never fight or argue. So conflict is to the barest minimum, if at all. All right. So it's possible. Guys, it's possible. So welcome the conflicts. All right. Conflict can either give you ulcer or understanding. So if at all there has to be a conflict in your relationship, let them instruct you, learn more from it, and learn from it such that conflict in that area shouldn't occur again just because you are learning. That's number 9. Welcome the conflicts. And finally, take the risk. What does that mean? This is the hardest part. That's what John Maxwell said. This is the hardest part. Risk being hurt than keeping your spouse at arm's length. All right. So the fact that you had a conflict does not mean you should totally disengage, go far away, don't come home for 1 week, ignore or avoid your spouse totally because I don't want trouble, I don't want trouble. I can be like that. Some of us are naturally inclined to doing that, but that doesn't speak well for the marriage and it doesn't help. Okay, so in spite of the conflicts, take the risk of drawing close. You want sex, take the risk of initiating sex. You want to apologize, take the risk of saying an apology. And it doesn't mean that you were wrong and the person was right. Take the risk, take the risk. Remember what James Sexton said. He said the hardest thing to do is usually the right thing to do. So it might be hard to take responsibility. It might be hard to want to draw close after a fight, but please stay farther away for the lengthiest period of time will not work well for your relationship. All right. Don't create a situation or a scenario where you can't have sex again. 1 week you can't have sex because somebody is still angry. 3 weeks you can't have sex because somebody is still angry. The devil can cash in on that, take advantage of that, and then you start admiring somebody else, or you start contemplating sleeping with somebody else. Look, there's no saint here, there's no Superman here. It can happen to anybody. It can happen to any woman. It can happen to any man. You may never have done it before, but there's always a first time. All right. So that is all from John Maxwell. Right. There is a lot to say, there's a lot to share, but let's end there because of time. Now we can take questions and suggestions before we close. Thank you for your time. I appreciate you for being here. Again, let me add, today is not my birthday. My birthday is on Tuesday, not today. But I needed to do this today before Tuesday because Tuesday I may not have that time to do this. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. God bless you. So let's take questions and observations before we wrap up. Right. So yes, anybody asking a question, let's see your hand. Anybody asking a question, let's see your hand. So I can see something here. Please, sir, in areas you have prayed and talked to your spouse in a polite manner and he continues in that area, which negatively affects the person's mental and family growth and finance. Way forward. Way forward. Okay. Someone who respects the other person's perspective, someone who seeks to add value to the other. Okay, that's a high valued person. Thank you, Muturayo. Okay, so this is the only question we have here right now. So, so there is an issue with your spouse. You have addressed the matter, you have spoken to the person, you have done everything, and the person is not budging. And this situation is affecting your mental health, affecting blah, blah, blah. So what do I want to advise? Does anybody have an advice for my sister here? Anybody before I speak? Any advice? If you have been listening, any advice? Blessing, any advice? Any advice? Antonia, any advice? Any advice?
So I believe sometimes, even when the spouse is not willing to change, you would be the one to adjust your own expectation towards them. If you can adjust your expectation, you still enjoy your marriage, even though the person has not changed. A lot of times, I believe it's our own expectation that sometimes affects us. You know. Thank you so much.
Thank you, coach. Thank you very much. Blessing. You have spoken like a truly wise woman. Yes, and I'm not flattering you. It's a fact. So, yes. So, let's imagine the worst. This thing is key. You've argued about it, you've nagged about it, you've disagreed about it, you've fought about it, you've done so many things about it, and it has not changed. What is the intelligent thing to do? Let's even leave Bible, let's leave psychology. What's the intelligent thing to do? Find your peace. Otherwise, this thing will kill you. And the devil wants to kill you before your time. And if the devil cannot kill you, he wants to mess your mind up. He wants to mess you up. If you cannot kill, he wants to mess you up. And this is one way the devil messes people up when he cannot kill them. It makes you focus on what you cannot change. One of the ways you can waste your life, and I'm talking to everybody here right now, not anybody in particular. One of the ways you can waste your life is by focusing on what you cannot control or change. You will waste your life fighting it, and you'll become grow and gray, and you will have wasted all your years, and you will achieve nothing. And guess what? All you will have achieved is sicknesses, disease, mental health issues. God forbid that you run mad. And the only thing that will have helped you is by you refocusing your mind, right? Adjusting your expectations, like Blessing said. That will have given you more sanity, more peace of mind, right? It will have given you. Now, I don't know if you were here earlier, but I shared from a book, Praying Big for Your Marriage. I shared from that book of how this woman, her husband loved riding bike. And one of those days, he was riding bike and he had a ghastly accident. And it was only God that saved him that he didn't lose his life. It took months before he became well. And guess what my guy did? After he became well and God delivered him. Do you know the first thing my guy did after he got well, after God delivered him from that ghastly accident? He wanted to withdraw a certain amount of money from their savings to go and buy another bike to start riding again. He had forgotten what God delivered him from. He had forgotten that he broke his hip bone or something. He had to go through surgery. He had to go through a serious process to get well. So the first thing this guy did after he got well was to go tell his wife that he wants to buy a bike. The wife said, "No, honey, you can't buy a bike." He said, "No, honey, I need to get a bike." "No, honey, don't get a bike." "No, honey, I need a bike." So do you know what the wife did? The wife said, "You know what? I'm not going to allow this thing, frustrate me. If you cannot remember what God delivered you from, I think that's his problem." You say, "Honey," she had a honest conversation and she clearly expressed to him without disrespecting him that this is, you already know what I would like, but I see that this is very important to you. If this is that's important to you, it's fine, So what she did was, number one, she showed support. Number two, she clearly stated that that was not what she would like for him because of what he did to him in the past, right? And the number three, she did not voice out, but we believe that she was praying for him. So this guy, okay, so this guy bought the bike, right? Bought the bike, and then his first day riding the bike. I said this at the beginning, but I'm saying it for those who were not here early enough to hear this. So this guy, the first day was he rode that bike. He had a very bad experience. He didn't have an accident, thank God, but he almost had a situation with two different cars. He had nauseating feelings, and by himself, do you know what this guy did? He rode the bike back to the shop where he got it from, and thankfully they gave him a refund. That was the last day he rode a bike. Now, this guy explained the story in that book, Praying Big for Your Marriage. I am happy to send the book to you. If you are on our marriage settings WhatsApp group, I will send the book on that group. All right, it will benefit you. It's not, it doesn't have too many pages. It's not a big book. It's a small book. Praying Big for Your Marriage. So you will see experiences there that will help you. So what should you do if you have been nagging and fighting and shouting over a particular matter and your spouse has refused to budge? Let it go. Find your peace. Continue to pray for your spouse. Just know that your spouse does not understand. That's why he or she is stuck in his or her ways. And then do what John Maxwell has suggested. Find the areas where you agree Focus your 100% effort and energy on those areas where you agree, and stop focusing more on the areas where you don't agree. Otherwise, that's one place where you don't agree can mess up all other areas of your marriage. Before you know it, it will mess up your finance. Before you know it, it will mess up your sex life. Before you know it, it will mess up your relationship with your in-laws. Before you know it, it will mess up your job. You can't concentrate at work. Before you know it, it will spread like cancer and affect other areas that were good before. All right? So don't let that happen to you. How does a spouse cope who is not financially to committed to his immediate family but is more to the extended family? That's a serious. There are people like that who will spend money for third party. If you come to him or her for your troubles, they will bankroll everything. But the family is suffering. That is not good. And I want to say that there's an underlying issue to that. Such people are people pleasers. They it is important to them that they save their face before other people, so their family should understand and go starving, but other people should enjoy their best, that the best that they have to offer. That's not healthy, it's not fair, it's not right. But again, you cannot fight that person. Okay, let me hear opinions. Moturayo, do you have an opinion on how to manage that? Blessing, do you have an opinion? Antonia, do you have an opinion? Even if I didn't mention your name and you have maybe a practical experience to that, what can you share? Let's learn before I start blowing my grammar. Okay, so you have a spouse who will rather take care of others than his immediate family. How do you cope with that? Anybody? Anybody? Is anybody sharing? Okay, Diwali or Personal, please speak. Are you responding to this question? Is someone speaking? No one is speaking, so I should go on. Hello? Yes?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you now, sir. Go ahead.
What I would say is that you have to understand that you can't, like you rightly said during the seminar, you can't depend on your spouse for everything. He has areas of, or he or she has areas of weakness that you just can't change them.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to be, if this has to do with finances, most likely, you have to
Mm.
be financially independent on yourself and cover those areas of his weakness. I mean, I remember my own parents. I remember my dad was, he's of late memory now.
Mm.
I remember he was more of like an introvert.
Mm.
My mom was even more introverted than my dad. So my dad was someone that uh, he didn't really like, you know people's birthdays, and all that, even to his own extended family.
Mm.
But it was my mom that covered that patch because she understood his own weakness. So you have to get to the point whereby there's some things that that person just won't see. You have to start saving, start investing, start growing, looking for business opportunities, and to an extent be financially independent from your husband. There's some husbands that will say that I don't want my wife to be financially independent and what have you. But at the end of the day, if you see the benefits and what you bring to the table,
Mm.
then he might just start changing his mind. But
Yeah.
don't pin your disappointments on him or her because it just won't work. It will rather drive the two of you apart
Yeah.
than bring you together.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what I wanted to say.
Well spoken, sir. Well spoken. Thank you very much. While we are not saying, for the person who asked this question, while we are not saying it is a rosy journey, we are not saying it's easy, it's not as simple as it sounds, yes, but you know what? Ah, if you heard what my brother just said, I think that's a very good advice. Don't stop praying for him. You see, some people when they hear pray for him, pray for her, they get angry. Like, look, can you tell me something else outside praying? Because I've been praying all my life. Okay, maybe you have been praying, but maybe you've not been listening. Because I know that one of the things that happens when we pray is that God gives us feedback. And sometimes the feedback we get in the place of prayer is not uh, your prayer has been answered. Sometimes the feedback we get in the place of prayer is God pointing our hearts to the areas we should rather focus on. And like what somebody said, a lot of times you pray about a situation, and instead of God addressing the situation, it's addressing you to address the situation. So don't be angry because you've been praying a lot and it seems like God has not heard you. In the place of prayer, sometimes we receive instruction. In the place of prayer, sometimes we receive adjustments. In the place of prayer, sometimes we receive empowerment. So look at uh, Sarah's born Sarah's maid. Do you know the story? Hagar. Hagar was Sarah's maid. Sarah was not able to give Abraham a child, so she suggested that her servant has a child for her husband. You know the story. So her husband eventually was pressured, yeah, into having an affair, sexual relationship with his wife's slave or servant, and then eventually they had a child, Ishmael. You know the story. And after Ishmael came, eventually God blessed Sarah as he promised, and Sarah had Isaac, and then Sarah started maltreating Hagar. You know the story. So this maltreatment became so chronic, so bad that Hagar had to run away. So one day, Hagar packed her load, took her son, and Hagar ran away. She ran away from the house with her son. And on the way, she was in the desert or something, if I recall correctly. And her son was dying because they needed water. They had exhausted all the water they had. And as she was crying out to God for mercy, the Bible says the angel of the Lord appeared to her, and asked her, Hagar, servant of Sarah, where are you going and where are you coming from? Like God did not know. I said, oh, my Lord, I had to run away from the face of my master's wife, my whatever, my madam, because she's a very wicked woman. See what she has been taking me through. See what she has been doing to me. See how she has been treating me. That woman is so heartless, So I just had to run for my life before that woman gives me mental health issues. And do you know what the angel of the Lord said? The angel of the Lord said, go back to that your wicked madam and submit yourself to her. And by the way, here is water for your son. So God gave her the water she needed, but told her to go back to that place of peril. God asked her to go back to that place of pain. God asked her to go back to that place of trauma. You see, why I'm sharing this with you is to let you know that God's goal is not to make you happy. Because there are so many things that God will ask you to do that will not make you happy. But God's goal is to for you to do His will. Because if you focus on obeying God and doing His will, you will eventually find a level of happiness that nothing in this life can give you. But the devil will tell you that fight for your happiness, fight for your happiness, fight for your happiness. And that will be all that will matter to you. And if you are so blinded by your present happiness, you will lose your long-term happiness. Right? So sometimes you might not be happy in the present moment, but God is working out for you a more lasting fulfillment, greater than what you are fighting for in the moment. So, like my brother shared earlier, don't stop fighting about it. You have fought. How has your fighting helped you? You have shouted. How has your shouting helped you? You have argued. You have nagged. You've even, there were days that you didn't even talk to him. There were even days that maybe he said he wanted sex and said, no. How should I give sex to a man who will not take care of his family but will go and take care of outsiders? You know what? So you've done all of that and it has not helped. So stop doing that. Adjust your expectations, like somebody said. Find a side hustle, find business, side business, whatever. But you need to do something for yourself financially. It's important. My wife has her money, I have my money. And I'm happy that my wife has her money. My wife is able to do things for me with her money. She's able to surprise me with her money. I've shared countless times. Some people here might have heard my story before about a time in my life where I didn't have a job. 8 months, I was not able to provide. 8 months, that was many years ago. And my wife was fending for the family. My wife was feeding the family. My wife was paying children's school fees. My wife was giving me money, and nobody knew, right? So you want to be that woman who is able to do things for the family when your husband cannot, whether due to his foolishness or due to circumstances, whatever. But you should be that woman who is able to fill in the gap. By the way, a man is not the sole provider in a home. It's not biblical. Any doctrine that tells you that the man is the sole provider is a demonic doctrine. It's not biblical. The Bible talks about the virtuous woman in the book of Proverbs, chapter 31, I think. He said this woman was a businesswoman. She was doing stuff for her family with her own money, with her own enterprise. Did she not have a husband? And the Bible did not tell us that her husband was irresponsible. Not necessarily. Some people have that impression, but that's not what the Bible says. So there is no law in the Bible that says that the husband should be the sole provider in a marriage. But if you have a husband who will not allow you work or do business, who wants to be the sole provider, enjoy it. If you can still make your money with an online business, whatever, please make your money, keep your money, take care of yourself, but enjoy your husband's money. But if you are blessed with a husband who will still appreciate you working or contributing, it's a blessing. Do it and enjoy it and stop complaining. Stop saying, my friend, don't work. Why do I have to work? No, it's a blessing to work. Work is a blessing.
Good night.
Right?
Excuse me?
So, yes. Good evening.
What's happened?
Good evening. I can hear you. Do you have a question? Do you have a question? Okay. All right. So I hope that helps, so that we don't overflow that matter, right? So sometimes God is aware of your pain, but it does not mean that the will of God is outside the pain. I want you to know that. Bitter truth, but it is true. Sometimes God is aware of your pain, but His will may not necessarily be outside of your pain. So if all you want is just convenience, you might miss God's will. And that is not me telling you that stay in an abusive marriage. That is not me telling you that it doesn't matter what anybody does to you, just die there. That's not what I'm saying. Okay? All right? So I'm not saying that go and die because God wants you to go through pain. That's not the point here. Right? Thank you very much. Any other question? Somebody's raising his or her hand here. Do you have a question or a contribution? Please go ahead so that we can wrap up this 10:15. Yes? Is there a question, a contribution? Any other addition? I think that's all right. Thank you very much. I guess there's no further questions. Thank you for your time. Bless you. I appreciate your joining, and I hope that you learned one or two things. Thank you for celebrating my birthday with me through this session. Again, my birthday is on Tuesday, not today, all right? So you can still wish me happy birthday on Tuesday. That's my birthday. Thank you for joining. Um,
Hello, sir.
hello, Moturaya. Go ahead.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Everyone.
Hi,
Sir,
guys.
I didn't want to ask this question. Happy birthday in advance, sir. I'm sorry I came in late.
No problem. Thank you.
There's this question that I would like to ask. I don't know, for maybe 1 or 2 minutes.
Hold on.
It's a question.